Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 15 of Shootin' the Schmidt. Middle of April already. My goodness. April 15th. Nice, good, fun day coming tomorrow. Hells yeah. Let's knock some of this podcast stuff out of the way real quick. For those of you watching on the YouTube version, make sure to drop a like down below. Show the video version some support. Comment on anything you guys listen to in today's podcast. We're over on listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher. Sure to follow, stay up to date with new episodes every single Thursday of the podcast. If you're on Apple, leave those 5-star reviews. We'd love to read them. Let's get into things with today's pod. So I was excited for today because tomorrow, MLB 21 The Show is coming out. I'm excited. Brand new baseball game. It's the first year ever it's coming out on Xbox, so that's exciting. And I was excited because I had some stuff to rep for the cover boy, Fernando Tatis Jr. Had the t-shirt ready to go, the Padres hat, but with the whole green screen set up, it doesn't really like mustard yellow very much, so that's disappointing. I left the hat on because it's not terrible. It's not terrible. You get the idea. Still messing with it a little bit. It's all right. Not too bad. But MLB 21 The Show's dropping tomorrow. Finally, a new exciting game to be able to play on Xbox for the first time. With that, and finally having online membership, because in past years I never bought it with PlayStation because I wasn't going to pay for 2 online memberships. But now with it being on Xbox and included with the membership I already paid for, be getting to online, some Diamond Dynasty for the first time. I'm excited. I'm going to be trying it out. I played a lot of FIFA back in the day for a couple years, and I really liked Ultimate Team, and Diamond Dynasty and MLB The Show is essentially the same thing. You collect cards to get certain players, and you build a team and play games. It's awesome. I enjoy those kind of modes in the sports games. Never really gotten into them with Madden or 2K, but I don't really play a lot of Madden and 2K. But I love building teams. I remember playing old MLB and NBA games back on like the older consoles and just sitting there for hours making rosters. So I like building teams, so that aspect is going to be fun. Doing that online, going out and completing challenges to get some of the higher tier cards, competing online, and we got Stadium Creator this year too. They implemented an entire Sim City style Stadium Creator into the game. It's magical stuff what they've done with Stadium Creator. That alone is going to be something people are going to be spending endless hours on, just trying to recreate their favorite stadiums, or just build really cool ones of their own. Super cool aspect that's going to be coming into the game, at least for the next gen consoles. And I'm just ready. I need something new, something fresh to play. It's baseball season, so I'm in like the baseball mood to play like a video game of baseball. So I'm ready for this to drop. Comes out Friday, tomorrow, as of this podcast going live. And I'm ready. This game needs to come out already. Been waiting a while, but staying on track with the baseball stuff, I got to throw this in here. We talked a lot about the opening weekend of baseball stuff last week because baseball started up. New season started beginning of April, as it always does, and just kind of gave my thoughts on how things have been going so far, some of the exciting players out of the gate, and I gotta bring up the Tigers again. They're impressive. Now, granted, if I recorded this podcast about 5 days ago, probably wouldn't even be worth mentioning because they just came off a terrible series against Cleveland. But as of tonight, they just finished their series with Houston, swept them, a very good Astros team that was very hot to start the year, and went in and swept them. Got their old manager AJ Hinch on our side now, and I guess he gave us all the secrets because we went in there and looked like a very, very good baseball team. And overall, I'm liking the team so far. I got to be honest. We've got some holes. I'm not a fan of Jose Urania in the starting lineup. Jonathan Scope's been off to a rough start, as has Victor Reyes, but we've got I guess all things considered, a loaded outfield. But I mean, we've got Wilson Ramos having a year for the ages as far as his standards go. I mean, he's always been a solid major league catcher, has always been a catcher with a better bat than the average catcher in the majors. But it hasn't done a whole lot, at least the last couple of years, and Tigers pick him up on a cheap 1 year deal. I think we got him on a 1 year deal. We got him on a pretty friendly deal, at least. We didn't give him the bag, but comes in and he's been our best hitter, leading the league in home runs and been a stud. We got this Rule 5 pick, Akil Baddoo, coming out of nowhere, being probably the lead runner for MVP right now as it would stand. Definitely for Rookie of the Year. Long way to go. Long season. 12 games in, but 6-6, and the team's at least fun to watch. So I got to give him that. And I mean, we're competing. So we're making strides. As we get more of the young guys going and stuff, man, I'm excited. Hopefully the Tigers will be back in contending for him not too long from now. If we keep making the right moves in the offseason, which I think we made some nice free agent pickups this year, guys like Mazzara and Ramos, and bringing back Scope and those kind of guys, I thought those were really good moves. They've been solid so far this year. And, some starter and bullpen additions too. Our young guys, Scooble and Mize, are looking great to start the year. Matthew Boyd is coming back and being what he was a few years ago, and we probably should have traded him. But he's coming out and looking great. Really, the only awful part of our team so far this year has been our bullpen. And they almost blew it tonight against Houston. But, it's been the story for the Tigers for God knows how long. But I got to talk about the Tigers when they're doing well, because you never know how long this is going to last. But no, it's been enjoyable. It's been really nice to at least have them be fun to watch. Like if I'm going to watch a team that sucks and isn't going to win a lot of games, at least give me some fun stuff to watch, some good storylines, kind of like I talked about last week. Give me a reason to watch, and the Tigers so far are doing that. And hopefully Akil Baddoo can keep his run going. I would love nothing more than for that kid with his backstory and being a Rule 5 pick to just be a stud. That'd be great, in addition to all the other really good prospects we have so far. But all right, enough baseball talk. We're going to be talking a lot of Call of Duty League, at least for the next little bit, because we just had our second major this past weekend. I said I would probably mainly discuss the Call of Duty League at the end of each major, because other than that, they play for about 4 weeks straight and then a week off, and I'm not going to talk about the COD League every week. But with their big majors, definitely usually some stuff to talk about, and there's plenty of stuff to talk about with this second major. So we had an upset in the finals. I mean, we came in and Atlanta FaZe looked like they were going to be the team. Heavy favorites to win. They looked like they were on another level compared to every other team. It was FaZe, and then there was, you had the mix of Empire and OpTic and Rokkr and maybe whoever else got hot. But it's the Toronto Ultra who had, by the fan vote, a 0.2% chance. That's, fan voted, obviously, so not statistically accurate, but 0.2% of people picked the Toronto Ultra to come out and win the whole thing, and they did it, and they beat none other than the heavy favorites, the Atlanta FaZe, in the grand final best of 9. Impressive stuff. Toronto is one of those teams that, if you watch them, they look like they're definitely good enough to compete. They just hadn't put it all together. They made that swap right at the beginning of this stage, if I'm correct, somewhere in that around that time frame, bringing in Insight for the veteran methods. And, the team started to look a little bit better, but not as good as they looked this last weekend. Holy crap. And then the player everybody thought, this was one of the great storylines of the whole thing. The guy that everybody thought should have been subbed out and benched on Toronto, being Bance, popped off this weekend, and especially in that grand final against FaZe, looked unstoppable. Looked like a top 5 player in the game. He was having that kind of day. And it was cool to see the tweets come out from him afterwards after Toronto ended up winning, that he had just texted his fiance recently, probably within the last couple weeks, that he was considering retirement, that he just wasn't competing at a high level anymore, and was taking a lot of flack for not being for not performing well and getting a starting spot over what some other people thought should have been more deserving, being Methods. He comes out and pops off, has a resurgence. It's awesome. Those kind of storylines are great. Happy for the Ultra. Like I said, they've been a solid team overall this year. They've been one of those dark horse teams that if you play them, you don't want to take them too lightly. They're not a guarantee, top 3, 4, or 5 team, but they can sneak up on you. They're very talented. They played very well this last weekend, so they shocked the world and end up taking the major, winning the best of 9, 5-3. Man, just a shocker. It was crazy because in they cracked the winners side of the bracket after the first 3 weeks of the stage, and they ended up beating OpTic 3-1, which was, I think, fairly surprising. I mean, OpTic has had their ups and downs so far this year, but that's just one you would expect OpTic to come out on top on, or at least I did. They get beat 3-1, and then they go play against FaZe. They lose 3-1. They come all the way back around, make a loser's bracket run, beating Thieves 3-0, beating Rokkr, who is another hot team as of recently. They beat them 3-1, and then they beat Empire 3-1. I mean, they made an unbelievable run, and they beat some damn good teams. Like I said, Thieves, who came out of the woodwork and got hot after their roster change. Rokkr, who since bringing on Standy has been unreal. And then they beat Empire, who's had their struggles, but still pretty much undoubtedly a top 3 team in the game. And then they beat FaZe, the insane heavy favorites who beat them earlier in the tournament. Great run by Toronto Ultra. Hats off to those guys. It was very exciting to watch. Very impressive. If nothing else, even if Toronto didn't end up coming out with the win, it was nice that they at least competed and played very well through the entire tournament. But it's great to see a team like Ultra come out and win, because like I said, it was so heavily favored that FaZe was going to win it. They have just looked like that much better of a team than everybody else. They've looked like they've been one step ahead the entire way, and Toronto comes out and beats them. Shocks everybody. It's good. Just for variety's sake, it's nice to see a different team win the major. Not the one everybody expected. Some people thought maybe Rokkr would come through after they've heated up the last few weeks. Not the case. Not the case at all. Some other notables. What else do we got here? Empire made a decent run. 3-0 subliners, 3-2ing Rokkr. Then they, fall down, lose to FaZe, and then lose to Ultra. Up and down. Got to get some stuff shaken out with Search and Destroy for them for sure. Still a good respawn, but their search has been pretty rough. Subliners kind of surprising. As a team that came out in the first major and looked very, very good. Kind of shocked the world with how mixed up their roster was, but they come out and they get beat by Empire and beat by Thieves. Bang, bang, right out. Hung in 3-2. 3-2 loss against Thieves. If I remember correctly, that was a reverse sweep by Thieves. If I remember correctly, Subliners were up 2-0 in that series. Thieves came back, beat them after their roster change. Man, so much crazy stuff happened with this major. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover it all. We should move to next. I guess we'll talk about Thieves. They came in looking awful, I think, through the entirety of the round robin part, or whatever you want to call it, of stage 2. They had the worst record, if I'm correct. They were 1-4 in their 5 matches. And then they make somewhat surprising, but I think the right move. I guess you could just look at it now and say it was the right move based on the fact that they made some noise in the tournament, but they get rid of one of the greatest Call of Duty players that has been in Slasher. I think undoubtedly the leader of the team, at least as far as the player's leader. And he's been so good throughout his entire career. With the move to online because of everything with COVID and whatnot, he's had his struggles, and obviously he's expressed his frustration with having to play online rather than playing in person on LAN. But he's struggled throughout this year. And but it's, even with that, just with the status that Slasher has, it was still kind of surprising because it's one of those things, like, even if he struggles, you got to think teams are going to hesitate to bench the guy because of just who he is. But Thieves pulled the trigger. They swap in Draza, who had a big year last year at the end in Modern Warfare with that whole shakeup with the old OpTic team. Dude came out and slayed, and Thieves look like an entirely different team. My guess is something with Slasher. There was just a chemistry. The vibes were not there with him being in there, probably almost undoubtedly frustrated with the whole online part of the league. And I guess the vibes just got shaken up enough. Heard nothing but good things about Draza, not only with his play, but with his attitude and all that stuff, and how he comes to play. And Thieves look like an entirely different team. And this is definitely the roster I think they're going to keep, seeing as this is the most consistent success they've had pretty much since the season started. They've been so up and down and had been on such a bad run to start this stage. And hey, they did the best they could. They came out and made some noise in the tournament, beating Paris 3-0, beating London Royal Ravens 3-2, and then also reverse sweeping New York Subliners, who are no slouch by any means. So good to see them at least bounce back. They did end up losing to Ultra, team that won it 3-0, so can't really knock them too much there. Ultra was on fire, but a good bounce back run from Thieves. Good to see them coming around. Seattle Surge, another team that people thought could make some noise. They ended up getting their first match against the Mutineers. They ended up beating them 3-1, but then because of OpTic's loss, they have to take on them, and OpTic, you know how good they are. They end up taking down Surge 3-1. They get knocked out. They're looking better. Seattle Surge has been kind of the laughingstock since the CDL started last year, and because they've had good enough players to win games, they just haven't been able to put it together. But within the last few weeks, they've looked like they've figured it out. They've got a good roster, a very talented roster. It's just putting that all together. And with how insanely competitive this league is, it's just tough. I mean, there's 48 players in this league. It's the top 48 Call of Duty players going against each other. There really is no super slouch of a team. It's one roster change or one team getting hot with the good vibes and all that stuff can come out and do it. As we see with Ultra, on paper, they've got some good players, but they're not on paper as talented as some of the other teams that were in this tournament. But right team gets hot. This league is so competitive that kind of stuff can happen pretty easily. So Surge bouncing back, definitely going to be one of those sleeper teams to look out for that can, if you're not playing to your peak potential, definitely be a team that can sneak up and bite you. I think that's about all for individual teams that I wanted to discuss. Not much else was too surprising or really noteworthy, except for one more thing. And this was coming if you tuned into the Call of Duty League at all during this major. OpTic taking on Rokkr. A crazy one, two teams that get along pretty well. There's some old OpTic members that are with Minnesota Rokkr now. Good teams, not a huge, nasty rivalry or anything of that sort. They're personally my two favorite teams as far as that goes. And both with really good rosters put together. It was going to be an exciting matchup when they came up in the losers bracket, and it did not. Man, oh my goodness, a match for the ages, truly was. Didn't disappoint one bit. I personally at least expected this to be a very close match, and it came down to the very end. As close as it could. It went all 5 games. And in Search and Destroy came down to the very last round in round 11. And we witnessed one of the most insane, lucky, biggest choke, whatever you want to call it. We witnessed one of the most insane Call of Duty clutches, Call of Duty plays, whatever, of all time. Accuracy of Minnesota Rokkr was in a 1-on-3 situation against OpTic in the final round in a pretty much impossible to win situation. This is professional Call of Duty. Winning a 1v3, it's tough. It's very tough, especially in the stakes like this where the team is not typically going to do something too stupid. And it's a very, very tough scenario to win. And Accuracy pulled it off with a play that is so unbelievable to describe. He came around the corner on Moscow at A-bomb, and all three players were lined up right there for him. Killed them all right in a row. Two of the players, at least, I believe Scump and Formal, were both weak due to a fight that Scump just got in and a grenade that hit Formal. Made it a little easier. It was just, it's one of those you got to watch. It's unbelievable how the timing worked out so perfectly like that. That's a play you watch and you go, and you can pick 1,000 different things that if they were just slightly different, that play doesn't happen. It's a 1 in a million play. And it's something that nobody's really ever seen in a match like that before. Like I said, pretty much unwinnable. When you look at, I mean, if 3-on-1 in that scenario and just where all the players were positioned, almost impossible to win. But almost. Rokkr pulled it off. Came down to the very, very end. Rokkr took the match 3-2. And that really wasn't all. I mean, not only is this one of the craziest plays ever to happen in Call of Duty, but OpTic, of course, being, I think, pretty much unquestionably the most popular team in the Call of Duty League. It caused some controversy, not because of how the play went down or some debate as to really anything with the play, but it came down to some social media stuff from Minnesota Rokkr. So basically what went down is after the match was over, the Minnesota Rokkr on their social media, on Twitter, instead of tweeting out the play, tweeting out the score on social media and, saying, GG's to OpTic, instead of any of that, what they decided to do was they decided to take the screenshot of the face cam of all the players, which are shown right at the end, right when they lose. Decided to take the screenshot of that, put that as their picture on their tweet with the caption, "We're witnessing a breakdown, hashtag brick by brick," which brick by brick is OpTic's tagline. And man, this caused a load of controversy, probably more than what should have went down, if we're being completely honest. It got a lot of hateful feedback, obviously, from the OpTic side of things, as far as being unprofessional and really just classless. A lot of the OpTic players really were not happy with that. And there was a lot of debate on social media on whether the side of OpTic was being too soft or whether the tweet was actually that classless, that unprofessional. Basically, the two sides. You're either soft or you're unprofessional. And I understand both sides of it, right? Because I immediately look at it and I go, man, that tweet's not that bad, right? Like, it's a little bit of banter, a little bit of trash talk kind of thing. And I don't think anything in that tweet was too bad. My personal opinion on the worst part of the tweet was using OpTic's tagline. Like, that's just kind of like, there's no need for that. In my opinion, the tweet would have been 10 times more okay just by leaving the hashtag out, personally, because that was I don't know. It just didn't really seem necessary. Like, it would have been made better, in my opinion, if that wasn't there. Just by that alone. But like I said, you look at the tweet, think about the scenario with trash talk and all that stuff. Because Call of Duty has a lot of rivalry, a lot of trash talk. It's one of the things that makes the league so exciting is the personality of the players, the storylines, all that stuff. It's a lot of what makes the Call of Duty League so exciting. But I also see it from the other side. I look at it and I go, of all the things, because like I said, Rokkr didn't tweet out anything right away of the win. They didn't tweet out the play that was so insane. Like of all the things, you would think you'd want to tweet out one of the most miraculous Call of Duty plays of all time. Didn't do that. Instead, this is the route they choose to go. You think about it in the fact of this is Rokkr's social media guy tweeting this out that had nothing to do with the match, didn't play in the match, basically as a third person off on the sidelines, making a meme tweet, at basically acting as the face of the organization, because when you run the social media account, that's more or less what you are, at least on that platform. And I see the frustration with that, because this isn't a player doing this. This is some guy that had really nothing to do with the match. And I mean, the whole object of it from their side is to obviously get clicks. This is OpTic. They're the biggest brand in Call of Duty. It's not really that close. By starting some banter, some trash talk with that, it's going to get some clicks. Going to get a lot of attention. It's what they're going for. No real secret there, which I get it. But just, it could have been done a lot better. And I also thought about it in this way, too. If you kind of relate it to a sports side of things, I mean, in the sports world, I mean, you've seen so many crazy come from behind or last second wins, so many heartbreaking defeats and all this stuff. And I can't really think of a time where I've seen the social media account of the winning team in a sport, at least in like a super high level, like tournament setting or anything like that, like a championship or a playoff run or something, show like a picture of a distraught opposing player and making a meme out of it, at least in the moment, right? Like maybe years down the line, kind of like a, hey, remember this type of thing. But I can't think of a time where I've seen that, at least in a sports setting. And that's kind of how I looked at it, is, because I mean, at the end of the day, it isn't esports. So I try to think like, man, I don't think the tweet itself was terrible, but it's just the look it gives the organization of Minnesota Rokkr, unfortunately. And I mean, there's a lot of debate on whether the tweet was, professional or not. But even Minnesota's own players were replying to the tweet saying, like, dude, what are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Take this down. And if their own players, like the people on their side, are disagreeing with the action, probably not a good look. But it's one of those things, and the players even talked about it. Like if a player was to tweet that out, really wouldn't have been much debate as far as professionalism or anything. Like that's just stuff between the players. The players don't really take much to that, but when it's the organization, it looks a little bit different. And I get the side. I think it was blown a little bit out of proportion. There's a lot of anger, especially coming out of Scump, who got a lot of flack, getting called soft and stuff like that. But the dude is the most popular player in the world. Dude takes so much flack. I don't think, one thing getting under his skin's making the dude soft, because I would hate to see that dude's mentions on Twitter. It's probably just an absolute crapshoot. But I get it. I think it was blown a little bit out of proportion, slightly by the OpTic side, but probably out of, frustration with what just took place, a heartbreaking loss like that. But I get it. I get both sides. Overall, probably just caused a lot more controversy than what there really needed to be. But nonetheless, it made all of that in itself made for a very exciting second major Ultra taking the $200,000 prize for first place. Great major. And we got one more little piece of news after the major ended. Came out of nowhere, really unexpected. LAN is coming back. The players, within sometime soon, are going to be back playing in person, playing on LAN. No more online connections, no more excuses, none of that stuff. We're going to be back to LAN here at some point. This was teased by the teams, which I thought was really weird. This is typically something you expect to come out of the leagues, like social medias or a post from them or something like that, where you would expect it to come out of the first place. But the first place this came out of was OpTic and FaZe's Twitter accounts. Out of nowhere, with no warning whatsoever, just saying, hey, we're back to LAN. Took everybody by surprise. A lot of the players had no clue. The staff, the casters, a lot of the league members, all that stuff had no clue. And then it was later announced just yesterday by the Call of Duty League officially. I don't have their official statement pulled up, but it said select events coming up or in coming up soon or something like that will be played on LAN, which is sooner than I think everybody thought. A lot of people are hoping that when it came down to champs at the end of the year, that at the very least that would be played in person on LAN. You don't want to have the big end of the year championship run come down to online stuff like it had to last year. You want that to be played in the fairest competition style possible. So I think most of us expected that, but through two majors and it's already looking like it's going to be coming back. My guess for this is that it's going to be just the majors. I can't imagine them playing the normal first 3-week stage matches on LAN. I guess maybe by stage 5 could be, but I don't see them doing that. I see them playing that online, and then when it comes down to the majors, the tournament, all that stuff, I see that potentially being on LAN. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. They didn't really give us much more than that, but I would expect at least the big major stuff, like the more important matches, to be played on LAN. I would assume no fans in attendance would be my guess, which is fine. I don't think anybody really expected that for this year, but it's at the very least going to give it the most fair competition. The players are going to be there in person on the same connectivity. So there's not going to be anything to chalk up to online connection or anything like that, which is good. A lot of the teams have already been in Texas, so it's made things a lot better this year. I don't think for the most part that there's been a lot of issue with connection and stuff like there was last year, which last year was to be expected. We went to online really out of nowhere. The COVID thing just kind of came up and threw a wrench in everything. Nobody was prepared. There was a lot more preparation available this year. So it hasn't been as much of a struggle, but still, even with the best online connection in the world, playing on LAN, everybody there, playing on the same connection, hooked up all together is going to be better every time than online. So I'm happy for the players. They enjoy playing on LAN a lot more. I think it's more fun to watch on LAN. It's still going to be a little weird without fans and stuff like that. But I don't think anybody expected that for this year, so not really a disappointment. Maybe they can get some kind of fans in there, at least maybe by the end of the year. I guess we'll have to wait and see how vaccines and those things go as we go forward. But at least some good news coming up a little sooner than I think everybody expected. So happy about that. I think that's going to be about it for the Call of Duty League stuff. A lot of talk on that. It was a very exciting major to watch. So definitely looking for more throughout the year. We got some weapon balance stuff just a couple weeks ago. The players did not use that update. So with that now coming into fruition, I'll have to see if we get any new weaponry that gets used. I'd be a little surprised, but we'll see. See how things go. But some more great Call of Duty to come. It's been a really exciting season. Really enjoyed it. Black Ops Cold War. Not the greatest game on the world, but it's really good for competitive. So at least makes that part enjoyable. But with that, we'll transition into some other Call of Duty stuff because we're finally getting a new Warzone map next week. Holy crap. This BR has been out since March 10th of last year, and we're finally getting a major map update. We've had some slight updates throughout, the Modern Warfare cycle where we got like the underground trains added. We got the subway station. We got the train up top added and still in. There's been some minor adjustments. Most recently with the new season, we got the ship that came onto to the bottom of the map by prison. But we haven't had a major map shakeup. I mean, 90+% of the map is still the exact same that it was over a year ago. And what we've seen with, like Fortnite and Apex Legends, and even with Blackout has made more adjustments than what the Warzone map has done. Of course, COVID, people working from home, all that stuff, I'm sure has thrown a wrench in it at some point. They probably wanted to make more updates sooner. Who knows? But regardless, we're supposed to be getting a new updated map next week. Finally, we've had the zombie contamination thing kind of going around the map for a little while now. Pretty much the entirety of the season. Next week, Season 3 of Black Ops Cold War is starting, and we're supposed to be getting a new map, more or less. It's not what we initially thought. We thought it was going to be those fire team maps from Black Ops Cold War that were going to be put together to make an entirely new map. It's looking like that's not going to be the case. I think it was, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast already, but it looks as though we're getting a 1980s version of the Verdansk map that we currently have, which at least is going to be something new, right? And with it being kind of a time travel thing or whatever it's supposed to be, a shift to the past, a lot of those buildings that a lot of people hate should be less existent or at least not as freaking huge. Especially in like the downtown area of the Warzone map. Everybody knows there's the 16, 18, 20-story floor buildings that are just unreal that people have to sit on top of. But the clip of this map actually leaked last week. There was like an 8-second clip that showed off a lot of the stuff that was a lot more torn down. The stadium was barely even there. Not much more than just a field. A lot of the map, I'm sure, is going to be a lot more rundown and a lot less populated with buildings, which, hey, I mean, that's an improvement on the current one, in my opinion. Fighting through all the buildings and stuff is not the most fun stuff. And at least getting a new look map is going to be a nice change of pace. Something changing with the Warzone map is a good thing. And we're finally getting that next week. We'll have to see how it all unfolds. It's been teased for a while. The nuke that's, have supposed to gone off 8 times by now. But the nuke that's been leaked for pretty much since Warzone came out, supposedly finally going to be taking place. We'll see. The in-game event, or I'm assuming in-game event or whatever is coming next week, is going down. Going to be exciting. Definitely going to be checking it out, and I'm excited for some new stuff with Warzone. Season 3 will obviously be launching as well, so that on top of that, it's going to bring a bunch of new content, some new guns, hopefully some more weapon balance updates, because we need some changes. But some changes to Warzone, finally. Oh man, we've been playing on this map for so long, and it's not great. But regardless, people are tired of it. We wanted more consistent map updates and all that stuff, and we haven't got it. Finally, we'll begin something a little bit different. Excited for this whole Verdansk, what is the underground bunkers with the nukes in them mean, all this stuff. I'm ready for it to finally just happen. It's been talked about for almost a year now. So, finally getting there next week. At least we're supposed to. Please just let it happen. Let some change happen. But anyway, let's get into one more thing. Not Call of Duty, not sport related at all. We had some news come out with these vaccinations that have been going out for COVID. And from what I know, we have 3 main vaccines, right? We got the Pfizer, we got the Moderna, and we got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We got some news a couple of days ago that there have been some, I don't want to blow this out of proportion, but there's been, I guess, some complications with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, to put it, I guess, that way. There was a report that came out that some people have been getting blood clots or severe headaches and back pain and all this stuff, which I guess really isn't a big surprise. If you didn't expect there to be some complications with this vaccine that didn't have time to be truly tested and FDA approved and all this stuff, I mean, if you didn't expect anything to go wrong with this, I don't know what to tell you. And there's also some people blowing this way out of proportion that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is going to, I don't know, give you AIDS and kill half of the people that take it or something. It's, from what I understand, it's a pretty rare thing that's happening, unfortunately. And I guess the vaccine overall is being taken off the option list, I guess. They've been pretty much, from what I know, if you've been scheduled to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you've been, I guess, put on hold or put on a wait until they can get you one of the other ones. So crazy, which is kind of weird because they talk about how rare this thing is with this particular vaccine, but they're so quick to take it off, which is, I don't know, a little weird, I guess, a little overreaction, or maybe they know something more that the general public doesn't know. I'm not sure, but this, of course, brought up a lot more talk with the vaccine, because there's been so much debate on getting the vaccine or not. Of course, every time there's a vaccine that comes into play, you've got, the people that, if you don't get the vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer and anti-science and all this stuff. And, if you just go out and get a vaccine, then you're just a puppet and you just do whatever the government tells you, kind of thing. And this has just been for like simple like flu vaccines and stuff, as before, but with COVID, it's only gotten to be more of an issue. And to be honest, it's just pretty annoying. I don't know why people got to get in other people's business, or of why you make a certain decision. It can't just be a decision that you want to make for your personal requirements or desires or whatever. There's gotta be some deeper meaning that you hate life or hate people or something. There's always got to be some extra motive behind it for some reason. I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise. This is a world that likes to create hate off of little to nothing a lot of times. And, but it's really frustrating, because I feel like the majority popular answer is to get the vaccine. If you don't, you hate grandma, you want to see everybody die, you're selfish, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's the majority popular opinion for the most part, or at least the popular opinion is to get the vaccine. And in my opinion, and I'm one of those people that with damn near everything is a believer that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. If there is a topic and there is one heavy popular opinion one way and one that's the complete opposite on the other way, the truth's probably somewhere in the middle, because there's no way that things are always 100% totally absolute one direction, for the most part. And I believe that here. I mean, I know COVID has been monumental in what it's done in a bad way, for what it's done to, this country, the world. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, they're people's choices. And listen, COVID affects people differently, as we've seen throughout the last year. And this vaccine is going to affect people differently. As we're seeing, the whole Johnson & Johnson thing is really rare. Some people blow it out of proportion like it's a bigger thing than what it is, and some people probably think it's a hoax and whatever else. But bottom line, I get so tired of things that come down to personal decision and preference and what each individual person needs or desires or whatever, having to be forced some evil ulterior motive behind it all. This is a vaccine, okay? And this is a virus that has obviously heavily affected a lot of the world, and by statistics, emphasize that, in statistics, has killed a lot of people, right? I get it. But for a lot of people, they, by their personal preference, don't see a need in the vaccine. For me personally, coming from the way I'm looking at it, I'm 23. I've had COVID. So not only am I, by my age, in one of the higher survivability rates of this thing, I've already had it, which, from what I understand, and because of all the false fake news and stuff that goes around, it probably depends on who you ask, but from what I understand, having it is essentially the vaccine, more or less. From what I understand, that's what the vaccine does, is essentially gives you all the COVID antibodies, or whatever the science term is. So for me, personally, in my situation, I don't see a point in getting a vaccine. Someone else may, for their own personal thing or whatever, and I have no problem with that. Get the vaccine if you want it, and you think that's the route, or for your personal situation, your age group, your whatever your health's at, whatever. Get it. If you think the vaccine is the 100% way to go, get it. If you think that the government's trying to put a liquid chip into your arm and track how many times you take a piss every day or whatever, then don't get it. Have your personal thoughts and opinions. Some of them probably are going to be ridiculous, but that's what it is. But just let these people do them. Don't shame anybody into getting a vaccine they either don't really need or don't want to get or whatever. Don't shame people for getting it if that's what they want to do and that's what they feel is right. I get so tired of these things that of this shame into of shaming people into something just because it's the popular thing, right? It's what this whole cancel culture thing has created, so it's not really a surprise to see it come up with this, but man, dude, like, especially someone like a vaccine, like, well, what are we doing? Look, if you want to get it and it meets your health needs and desires, get it. If you don't want to, you don't feel like you need it, you already had COVID and think you're good, whatever. Do you. I get tired of this stuff. I should probably stop talking about it, but pisses me off. Clearly. But I think that's going to about do it for stuff here on the podcast. I won't go too much further than that. I'll probably just repeat myself 45 times. So we'll wrap things up. For those of you watching on the YouTube version, like I said, smack the Schmidt like button down below. Comment your thoughts on anything we talked about here in today's podcast. If you're on the listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher, follow the podcast. Stay up to date with new episodes every single Thursday. If you're on Apple, drop those 5-star reviews. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to episode number 15 of Shootin' the Schmidt. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode as always. Hopefully you guys all have a good one. I'll see you guys next week for a brand new episode. Peace.